Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. Starting today, I'm going to be posting videos for 8 evenings in a row, all in celebration of what I'm calling Hannah's Bookaka. I think I'll be trying to catch up on some of the book tags that have been on my docket for too long, as well as some new ones. I plan to finally talk about George Eliot's Daniel Deronda and how it deals with Jewish themes, a video which has been overdue since the end of October. And perhaps I'll discuss some of the particular books I've read recently, or the books I still want to read before the end of December. You might get to see just a bit of my family's Hanukkah celebrations if I get my act together. Maybe sharing one of our favorite Hanukkah stories, or if I can set the tripod up in our tiny kitchen as I make sufganiyot, basically jelly-filled donuts, or some other food involving prodigious amounts of oil, I'll show you that. And you might be getting a very special, or rather unusual, version of the venerable BookTube tradition of the wrap-up. Clearly, Bookaka is definitely easier than what you vlogmasers are going to be doing. But for those of us who always seem to be behind on BookTube, filming 8 videos in a row sounds a little daunting given some of my other commitments. After Hanukkah ends and Bookaka ends, I think I'll probably be slowing down for much of the rest of December, watching your videos, doing some reading and writing, and spending time with my family, and maybe taking a long winter's nap. So let's get started, since tonight we light the first candle of the Hanukkah. Today I want to make a short video, sort of a reads and rambles style video, telling you just a bit about the amazing time my spouse David and I had last week. Here in the United States, Thursday was Thanksgiving, a time when people typically travel to spend time, including plenty of time spent cooking and eating with family and friends. For years now, our family has not done that, partly because our families live fairly far away, and we traditionally travel to see them just a few weeks later over winter break. And both last year and this year, we were concerned about the pandemic. Both David and I have reduced immunity, as does my brother and both of our elderly mothers. We are all triple vaxxed, but we know there are people in our slightly wider circles who have resisted vaccination or chosen to spend time in crowded places without masks, etc. Abe couldn't come home because of final exams right around the corner, and he's swamped with work, including the writing of his senior thesis, a long paper due in mid-spring. So, David and I made a special plan. We asked our neighbor if we could borrow her unoccupied beach house, not just for Thanksgiving and the weekend, but for the entire week. And we celebrated a special Thanksgiving-style meal right before we left, including a fancy-looking butternut squash dish covered with pomegranate seeds, roasted Brussels sprouts, and a delicious loaf cake with sort of sweet curry spices, as well as rosewater icing. Really unusual and delicious. But then we left, packing foods that were quick to cook, a large stack of books, although not the second large stack of books I managed to leave on my bed, our laptops, and a plan. We created our own little writing retreat, away from the commitments of David's work and mine, away from the mess we ought to straighten up in the guest room, the stack of books coming in from publishers that have piled up in the corner of the living room, and the detritus that seems to be filling our unheated enclosed porch. All of that had to wait. And we wrote, and wrote some more. For a while now, David and I have been thinking and talking about writing a joint memoir. Folks who have watched this channel for a long time know that David has terminal brain cancer. A little more than 3 years ago, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma and underwent surgery, daily radiation, and extended chemotherapy. The average prognosis for the kind of tumor he has is somewhere around a year, or maybe a year and a half. First hearing the news was devastating and terrifying. But we prepared ourselves and began as much as we could to come to terms with what was happening. Wildly, joyfully, amazingly, David is still doing very well 3 years later, still able to work full-time at a high-pressure job, almost ironically, in medicine. And luckily that job he's been able to do from home since the pandemic began. He is still able to do most non-work things he did before as well, although he does get tired a little more easily. At this point, David is on the extreme end of the survival curve. And, as his neuro-oncologist sometimes quips, the longer you go, the longer you go. That is, if you make it 3 years, your chance of making it 4 years, or even possibly 5, is not at all impossible. This time together we had this past week spent talking about some kind of hard things, as well as about memories that brought us great joy, and typing away on our separate laptops was incredibly productive. We also took long walks on the beach. And we spent evenings reading other people's memoirs and listening to audiobooks in front of the fireplace, sipping on glasses of bourbon with red vermouth. I'm hoping that this jumpstart will make it easier to continue the writing now that we're at home with all the interruptions and responsibilities of daily life. But honestly, just having the time together was wonderful. Maybe that's silly, given that we've always spent a tremendous amount of time together, especially since David started working from home back in March of 2020. But this weekend was lovely. I don't plan to talk about our book a whole lot here on BookTube, but I will catch you up occasionally and would love any encouragement you'd care to send. If you have any memoirs you'd like to recommend, perhaps especially if they're about the experience of illness or disability or grief, I'd love to hear from you, either in the comments below or via email or the like. My email address is listed down at the bottom of the description box. Specifically, if you happen to know of any memoirs written by two narrative voices, no matter what the subject focus is, I'd love to hear about them. There's something about the dark, cold days that will fill the next couple of months that make writing together and reading together at home seem possible. Tonight, after I post this video, we'll eat dinner and light the candle for the first night. Here's to a celebration of light, but also love and peace this year and in all the years to come.